All right, so here we are taking a look at abundance, and I'm joined by Aurel. How are you doing today?
Hello, doing good, thanks.
Okay, and yeah, just get the game. It was huge toggle full screen. Okay, so let's get that. And it seems like some of the text goes off the edge of the screen. Have you seen that happen before?
Yeah, the camera will scroll, don't worry.
Oh, okay. That's just part of the world space UI. Okay, just wanted to make sure everything was good. So, if you can talk a little bit about your background in game development, and were you the solo developer on this project?
Yeah, so I made this game myself, even though it's a jam entry. I was hoping for a music guy, but well, not this time. Um, and I guess I mostly just participate in Ludum Dares for now. I always use the Hacksay programming language and always use my own engines. Um, I don't know. I want to create a game at some point that's not a game jam game, but for now, this is this is it.
Gotcha. Hello, Bart Moon. You're sorry you voted for the Harvest theme? That's okay. I think. By the way, how did you find the theme for this particular jam?
So I looked back. Apparently, I did vote +1 on it, which surprised me. But I mean, it's okay. I think any theme can work.
All right. Ooh, we got a very fancy yeah, so it's a 2.5D game, and then is the lighting dynamic?
Yeah, so I spent like a day on that. Yeah, the player does emit light, and it creates shadows, which I don't know. Sometimes are glitchy because, of course, I didn't have enough time to debug all the shadow acne and everything. But yeah, it's meant to be a bit moody, I guess, thanks to the lighting this way.
Right. Yeah, it's got a very distinct visual style. All right. Um, so can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the game?
Yeah, so I guess at the very beginning, I was just thinking, like probably many other people in the chat, that Harvest will be just a whole load of games that are, farming simulators or some kind of crop related thing. So I tried very hard to not go directly for just the Harvest game.
Hmm.
Um, so I tried to think of something, I don't know, with a story where Harvest um, pops up kind of indirectly or maybe in a surprising way. So if you play and actually read all the logs, I think you get the feeling that something went wrong with this mm, attempt to harvest as many crops as possible to increase yields to defeat famine in this world. But yeah, so it's kind of a dystopia or post-apocalyptic type thing.
Yeah, the maybe towards the end, once I've collected a bunch of the text entries, I can read them in a row. But I guess for now, as long as we're chatting, I won't interrupt you to read the dialogue entries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But again, this is why I would encourage everyone to try out the game for themselves, and I will make sure the link is shared there again in the chat. And all right. So, what was your development process like for the game?
So as I said, I have my own sort of engine set up. Most recently, I've been sort of experimenting with this. You might be familiar with something like immediate mode GUIs, where you write code which essentially produces, say, UI elements on the screen as the code is executed. And I tried to apply a similar idea to create 3D models, sort of immediate mode 3D models. So all the 3D that you see in this game is kind of produced with this strange engine which produces extremely long JavaScript files, but in the end it kind of works, I guess. Um, yeah, and then I guess I also recorded a time lapse of this entire process. So I think at some point I'll post this as a video and try to talk about the process as well.
Yeah, that would be fantastic to see. I noticed that as I started going outside there, I started taking damage. What happens if I die?
So you should respawn at the camp, the last one that
Okay.
you saved at, and yeah, the log here would explain why you're taking damage, but of course
Ooh,
you
okay.
don't
Yeah.
have time.
I will just rest here to restore health then and find a different way to go before I go in that direction. Are you like where are you going to upload your like time lapse of the game development?
I have a YouTube channel. I can link it in the chat.
Yeah, please do.
There's
All right. Excellent. So are you going to do like a voiceover describing what's happening in the like each part of the time lapse?
yeah. So I haven't done that yet, but I'm considering doing that for the first time now. I think it would be nice to see why for an entire day there's like stark red and green colors as I'm debugging shadow maps and struggling with shaders. I, I hope I can sort of explain what's happening there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it would be definitely like neat to see that the run through of everything. Like it's it's great that you were able to capture that time lapse process. Like, how did you actually do that? Did you just have something like taking a screenshot of your computer, or were you actually like video recording the whole thing?
Yeah, so I have uh, a script which I've been using many times already. It takes a screenshot every 3 seconds, I think. It's a bit more complicated because there's two monitors, so I need to, do something in a video editor to combine these things. And this time, because this game is using shaders and I'm using for my development some really old, like 10 years old machine, it actually doesn't run the game smoothly enough to play it.
Oh,
So when I test the game, I run it on a separate computer. So for the time lapse, I like send SSH commands to take a screenshot every 3 seconds as well. So then I have a synchronized time lapse for all three screens on two machines.
oh my goodness, that's very elaborate. Yeah, I've had friends who've done similar things with like capturing screenshot every few seconds. Obviously, it generates a way smaller file that you don't have to um, like speed up at the end of the recording.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't think you would really use that video in any other way anyway, so might as well already just take screenshots.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's a very tricky platforming here. No. It spawns me back up here. Okay. Honestly, this jump, this one where I bash my head is the hardest one.
I am watching it with a stream delay of
Yeah.
a bunch of seconds, so I'm not sure which one you mean.
It's just this one at the very top, like right before the checkpoint.
Ah, right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So what did you have to work with in terms of a level editor?
A text editor.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. So I have tried to like create a level editor within the jam time before,
Oh no,
which
no.
was fun, but also took way too much time. Um, I know I could probably use something like LDTK or I don't know the Ogmo editor. Would have worked fine. It's just I kind of like to work this way, and the parsing of text is like the smallest part of this entire process. I don't think that's such a big problem.
Gotcha. All right, I got my first actual upgrade now, so I really hope I can make it back without dying.
I see
Neat.
Bart Moon in the chat says gives another world vibes. I think that's a nice comment. Thank you. I also got the comment that people were reminded of Flashback, this old Sega game. I realized after the jam that I almost made a kind of copy of the outfit of the protagonist from Flashback in my character. So I guess somehow subconsciously this game feels a bit like Flashback also.
Yeah, okay, I don't think there's any way for me to go back this direction. So I'm just trying to remember where I can head back to explore. Oh, sometimes navigating the barriers between different screens is a little tricky. Ooh, please don't die. Okay, save point. Thank goodness. All right. So, what do you think was the most difficult part, most difficult problem you encountered during the jam, and what was your solution?
Yeah, so as I said, I spent way too much time sort of battling shadow maps. This was the first time I created such a shader. I mean, like it's not rocket science to create shadow maps in GLSL, and there's good tutorials for this on like Learn OpenGL on this website. But it's just finicky, right? You have to debug, I don't know, different coordinate spaces, and it just shows some completely strange shadows on the opposite side that you expect because, I don't know, you set the normals the wrong direction. Um, yeah, so it worked in the end mostly. Like I think even right now, as you're in the survivors camp, you see that this kind of moody looking extreme light on the right
Mhm.
looks cool, but is not what I would say 100% intentional. Like if you move to the right, it doesn't move as it should because this is some kind of specular artifact.
Mhm.
But yeah, so yeah, the lightning was uh, the worst part of this jam, but I guess next time it will be fine.
Yeah, let's see. So Bart Moon was asking if there was any tips you might have on creating a Metroidvania in the scope of a game jam.
Right. Um, yeah, it's really easy to go over ambitious with a Metroidvania and set up the expectation to create really like many different areas, which is what a staple Metroidvania should include, but I don't think that's possible in a jam setting, of course. So I did have some kind of pre-map on like on paper before starting for real.
Mhm.
But basically throughout the jam, I try to make sure that if I finish now or like if I have to finish within a couple of hours, there is a beginning and an end to the game.
Mhm.
So I can add things in the middle because I can just add areas, I can expand on the lore, but as long as throughout the jam, the game is sort of a game and not just the beginning of a game, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like making sure that there's always the ability to like ship at any time. You've got a minimum viable product in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah, and I think that the what was your approach to like because there's two power ups that I've gotten so far: double jump, pretty standard fare, and then the sort of the power suit that's going to let me what was it? This one, the Daria suit, is that like vaguely based off the Varia suit from Metroid?
Yeah, exactly. It's a various suit, but also Ludum Dare, so it's a various suit.
Oh, oh, that's good. Um, is that does it actually do anything, or is it just a essentially a key that you need to walk through the outside area?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It just lets you walk through the outside part.
Got it. And then, how did you think about arranging the space? So, was your intention to like lead the player through most of the world? Like, were you expecting people to run into the sort of danger, like can't go this way without the oxygen suit first, and then have to double back, or were you kind of expecting people to? Well, I'll just let you explain it.
Yeah, I see what you're. Yeah, so if you sort of think of I don't know, the graph of the world, it's really basic, right? There's, for example, this. this hub that you're currently in, which connects the intro area and then the underground area to the surface. And I think having the part above this map still be part of this room, like you don't cross the screen transition, makes it seem like you should explore this first, and then since you're up there, you might as well try to go outside. So I think most people will try to go outside before getting the suit, but I don't think you can make this happen for sure. Like I think if any well-designed Metroidvania should have sort of gates like the surface, which prevent the player from actually going further, but also, I don't know, subtle hints that make the approach to this part of the game simply less attractive. And I cannot claim I'm super good at this yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand the basic idea that you're trying to, like, you can draw the player's eye. You have these vines that are hanging down that kind of like obscure the player's vision, so you're more likely to move in a direction that seems clear than one that seems blocked off.
Yeah, I think that's what happens with the vines also in the hub. But yeah, I could also just admit that this is a bit of a lucky choice in the level design and not completely intentional.
Oh, I found 12 out of the 14 logs, and I died only 3 times. I think that's not too bad. One of those was actually a pretty intentional death because of the that one jump that I said I was having trouble with because I was bashing my head on the ceiling. I just sort of let myself die at that checkpoint because I wanted to restart with full health.
Yeah, but still good job. I think few people will get this with 0 deaths on their first try.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, like there are some really tricky jumps, but I appreciate that you gave like 3 health. So I'd say there's like a couple situations like there's a pretty long laser gauntlet on your way to the double jump power up. I think it would have been because there's like one part of the game where you have to like jump over a pit, and then there's like a few more laser hazards here, and then you sort of go down and around and then back through another laser gauntlet. Like I think by the time you get to the sort of midway point, it would be nice to have a checkpoint down here, sort of because like there's this room where you're actually getting the double jump power up at the end here, and that one's pretty tough to get through. So I guess, was there a reason that you wanted the player to go through this all as one gauntlet, or?
So, well, if I had difficulty settings in this game, I would place the camp there, as you suggest. It's always the risk, right? I don't think the platforming is especially difficult. And of course, if I keep playing the game, it's going to be easier and easier for me. So that's just kind of the risk of playing your game too much. I think I was quite generous with the platforming. So there's a lot of coyote time. Like you can jump an entire 1/10 of a second, like 6 frames after you actually left the platform. And I hope that the bouncing of the beams is kind of generous to the player as well. Like if you hit a horizontal beam from above, keep bouncing on it, although you only take 1 damage for some time, and it like restores both your jumps if you already have the double jump collected. So then you can still leave from that situation.
I do think one thing that would be handy would be if you press. Okay, so I guess when you have the PDA open, pressing Z switches between logs. Oh, does it? Oh, I see. Z switches over to items and then finally over to options. Oh, so you can actually turn down the sound effects volume and toggle full screen, respawn at last camp. That's really cool. This is a pretty full feature menu.
Yeah, maybe a bit hidden. And I think people complain about P being the key to close this is a bit out of the way.
Yeah, I was going to mention it as well, but I don't think like if you're, because I guess when you use Z to open, like to gather, like or to pick up an item that you find off the ground, um, then I guess people might be expecting to either press Z to close it again, or maybe hit escape to close it. But of course, escape just toggles full screen, so I guess can't always rely on that.
Yeah, in retrospect, I would change the tabs with X and C and let Z just be the close the PDA button.
Yeah, that would work perfectly. But again, it's pretty minor, all things considered. All right. So unless you somehow managed to mess up the ending every single jam. Sorry, Bart Moon. I think I looked over at that comment that you probably posted a while ago, so I'm missing the context for that. Um, all right. So do you have any plans for this game going forward, like a post jam version?
Maybe not exactly this, but there is a Metroidvania month jam starting in,
Right.
I think, February somewhere. Uh, I will try probably to make something longer, more polished for that. I might as well use something like this as the base for that game. I don't think this jam has such requirements as Ludum Dare to make most things from scratch. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with using a basic platforming engine. And hang on, did I see the HP bar on the screen twice? Huh.
I'm not sure. Did you?
See, it's always this jump. I always manage to like. I know there's the coyote time. I should be trying to take advantage of that, but I'm going to get complaints about the control scheme anyway. I'm not saying don't bother, but it's really hard to please everyone unless you add a control, like a control modifier setting. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think the the one thing like I appreciate that you have both WASD and arrow keys available as options, but you can't really use arrow keys if your other interaction keys are ZXC. When I made a game that had like interaction buttons and attacks and whatever, I made IOP function as the like ZXC, so that way you could use WASD space to like move the character and jump them around, and then you could use your other hand to hit IOP for the other functions.
Yeah, that would work better. I mean, you can technically use the up arrow key as the jump
Yep.
button, but it's because you don't really need the knife or the Z key most of the time.
Yeah, you only use it when you're standing still, which I think it's neat that you managed to create this kind of combat free game. Like you have hazards that you need to jump over, but it is like the only real hazards come from the platforming.
Yeah, and of course that was totally intentional and not just a lack of time, right?
Did you have plans for a like adding enemies to the game?
A little bit. I think I was thinking of well, basically something like plants which would drop some toxic thing on you, so it's more of an evasion thing. And I think the people that you see in the camp, which are all dead in this story, could have been something like possessed by the plants or something, but out of scope. So not any good.
Sure. Well, again, I think it all comes together quite well. Bart Moon's commenting, I'm not sure if you remember GMTK's 2020 Out of Control, where there was a lot of games about control schemes and how many people were left out of the AZERTY keyboards. Oh, yeah, of course, because, not everyone has a QWERTY keyboard. Got to keep that in mind for sure. Um, Oh, just a small thing, by the way. I wanted to mention that I'm pretty new to wearing glasses, and I realized that did I just see like two health bars? Yeah, when I angle my head at just a certain angle, because the HP bar is right at the top of the screen, I can see in one eye I see um, the HP bar, and then in the other eye I see the HP bar above my glasses. So it was not an artifact in the game; it was just a weird quirk of the lenses.
I see. It's post processing on your own side.
Exactly. All right. So were there any other like obviously I think that you did a great job in terms of managing your scope to like focus on having a complete and playable game here. But was there anything else that you wanted to add in that you didn't have time for, even if it was just an idea?
Yeah, I have an entire notebook full of these things, but I'm not sure like if anything would have changed the game drastically. I think looking at how people play this, it probably would have been nice to be able to mm, read the logs after you finished, because once you hit the victory screen, you actually cannot go back to the logs. So it's kind of
Yeah, I
assuming
realized
that you read
that.
them through the game. Um, there were sort of many visual things I wanted to show off. So I think the 2.5D engine is like visible thanks to seeing the shadows and these effects, but like especially on the surface, you see these parallaxing plants in the foreground. And it would have been nice to have, for example, in this metro area, like a derailed train actually going into like out of the screen and scrolling by as you go past it. Um, yeah, just sort of many little things that I could have added for sure.
Gotcha. So there, it happened just while you were speaking, but I had gone all the way down to get the double jump, and then in making my way back, I got myself killed, and then now I have to go get the double jump all over again. So I think if you were to add a checkpoint anywhere, it might be even just like after the getting the double jump, just so you don't have to do this whole part over again.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your pain.
And it's okay. It's not even like I guess I'm just trying to make a general suggestion of like I can. Oh my god! I nearly walked into that wall. I can just imagine that as being a pain point for players. So I feel like it's a little a little crazy to have to do this whole part over again just because you died on your way back. Like that's a pretty brutal feeling.
And I considered like keeping the items collected after you die, and it was specifically something I had to implement to make sure that the items reset correctly after you die. So I could have just not done that, right? But yeah, it just feels a bit strange. I don't know. I leave the logs in the PDA because it's just text that you read, and I don't think it would be satisfying to have to go back to the same text and then.
Okay, so if I keep, oh, I see. So it's whichever option at the top of the screen is bold is the one that you're on. But if I keep pressing logs, it doesn't cycle back around to options on the other side. Were the was the menu system something you had from a previous game, or no? Because you made this, you were sort of aiming for the competition, right?
No, I was hoping for Jam from the
Oh,
beginning,
okay. I must.
but
Sorry.
the menu system is not from a previous game. Like I have an engine which lets me like draw text. So basically, I created the menu system out of pieces of text, which is why it's mm, in this kind of format.
Yeah, I mean, I think it like totally works. It's more elaborate than most people have in their jam games. The only like I also have a menu system that I have reused in a lot of different game jams because it's just a simple like pause, music turn on and off, and then um, I don't know, say whatever other options I might have is depending on the game jam that I'm working on at the time. But yeah, I think that having a pause system is a very useful and relatively easy thing to port between jam projects. So, I mean, now that you've got this, you'll be able to reuse it again, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. I try to aim for very little code reuse. I mean, it's a bit of a sabotage, right? I basically have to spend more time in the jam making some things which I have already made. Um, I don't know. It feels more interesting to sort of create the game every time, and you can make it feel a bit more unique. So if I had a reusable menu system, I'm sure I wouldn't have it look like this PDA. Like I wouldn't incorporate the game options into the PDA. That sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. but it's a minor point. I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's where I was saying that like because I do reuse the same um menu system in a lot of my jam games, it means that I have this like as you say, like everything just looks the same because it's the same code operating each time. But for a pause menu, it's less of a concern. But all right. So unless anyone has any other questions in the chat, I know that you had a chance to drop your YouTube channel in the chat earlier, but was there anywhere else, any other projects that you'd like to plug or social media channels you'd like people to check you out on?
Sure. I think basically the I have Twitter, which I post mostly just my Ludum Dare entries on. I can link that. And then lately, I started posting things on itch.io first rather than on my website because this way I get to see the analytics and everything. And then I think later I will move the game also to my own website just to have it all there. But yeah, just
Gotcha.
the Twitter.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the stream today and having this conversation with me. I'm actually just about to beat the game a second time, but I feel like there's still 2 PDA entries that I didn't find.
If you show me the logs menu, I can tell you if that's true.
Yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I think I even got less this time than the last time I played.
I
Because I
think right
found
now you're
12 the
missing
first
4.
time. Yeah. Don't know which ones I missed. Honestly, some of it might have just been like a little bit of controller confusion on my part because I wasn't actually reading things. I might have like walked up to one of those PDA entries and hit P to open my PDA instead of Z to just open it.
Oh no.
But I don't know. Maybe there are some other PDA entries that are more cleverly hidden. But again, that means that people can check out the game themselves. Oh yeah, there's this one at the end here. So that's 11. And then, oh, can you jump over this thing? Okay, you can. So I guess I found like all but the same 2 that I probably missed the first time. But yeah, so people can always check that out themselves and see if they can beat my time. Yeah, I did slightly better. 10 minutes, 2 deaths. All
Good
right.
job still.
Cool. Well, if you do end up participating in any future Ludum Dares or any other game jams for that matter, I'd always be happy if you'd consider coming back on the channel and having a conversation like this one to show it off.
Cool, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much for doing the interview. I think it's an interesting way to do Ludum Dare rating or, well, streaming.
Yeah, in my case, I can't rate, unfortunately, because I didn't participate. So
That's fine. But yeah, it's a cool effort. So keep it up.
thank you. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and bye bye for now.
Likewise. Bye bye.
Bye bye.